Good morning. This is Ernie Lewis, the pastor of the Blue Point Church in Sisney, with your thoughts for Wednesday. I wonder if you have ever read the passage in Galatians chapter 6 and verse 7, where the Bible says, "Do not be deceived, God is not mocked. For whatsoever a man sows, that he will also reap." You know, there are often times that we have been deceived, perhaps by some sales gimmick or some person that is trying their best to trick us into doing something we don't want to do. But here, he's talking about being deceived into sin. Do not be deceived, you know. There are times whenever we are fooled into thinking that we are the one person that can commit that sin with absolutely no consequences. Maybe we're the person that thinks that we can take that harmful drug that will never really bother me, even though perhaps it has taken other people's lives. Or we're that one person that can cheat on our spouse and keep it hidden and no one will ever know. It's strange that we are deceived in such a way, for the Bible says in the Old Testament there was a man named Achan who took some of the spoil from the destruction of the city of Jericho, even though God told them very clearly they were not to take the spoil. It was his battle, it was his victory, but Achan took the spoil and he hid it under the rug in his tent. Thus that old phrase, you know, sweep it under the rug. But it didn't help, because the next thing you know, it harmed a lot of people. It harmed his nation when they lost their next battle. When they came back and cast lots to find out who had sinned, the lot, of course, fell upon Achan. God revealed his sin. And when they found the spoil, they took him out and stoned him along with his family. Do not be deceived. God is not mocked. You know, that phrase about mocking God means that we ridicule him. It means that we treat him with contempt or scorn. In other words, we're saying, I don't believe what God says in his word. I don't believe what God says about retribution and judgment. I believe I can do whatever I want to. Do not be deceived, for God will not be mocked. You cannot fool him. You cannot make fun of him without consequences. For whatsoever you sow, you reap. Now, most of us understand that. It's pretty clear, especially living in a farming community like I do. Many of our farmers go out and plant seeds in the ground. They know exactly what they're expecting from that seed. They know exactly what kind of seed it is. As a matter of fact, they have probably paid a very high price for that kind of seed. Maybe it's some sort of hybrid. Maybe it's been treated with some sort of chemical in order to keep away bugs. Or maybe there's been some sort of treatment there that is going to bring them an abundant crop, a hybrid that they've paid a lot of money for. They know what kind of seed they're sowing, and they know the kind of things that they expect to get from it. Whatsoever a man sows, that will he also reap. You see, they're not trying to fool nature. They know exactly what they're sowing. They know exactly what they should reap. How come we don't recognize that in our own lives today? What kind of things are we sowing today? You see, Jesus told us that we should lay aside for ourselves treasures in heaven, where moth and rust won't corrupt and thieves won't break through and steal, but instead we seem to be sowing everything for the here and the now. Whatsoever a man sows, we sow evil, we reap evil. That which is not pleasing to God will certainly bring consequences. So we need to reap that, or we need to sow that which is pleasing to God, so that we might reap a great harvest. What are you sowing today?